All right, here's our round 4 2-1 bracket. Round 4 2-1 bracket because in a 5-round tournament, generally the people who are 3-0 are just going to draw into the top 8. So, you know. So we have CJ back, and so I gotta swap these names around.
I'm not here to help you play with.
That's fine.
Just harass you a little.
We have a special guest, one of our wizards. He's here.
No,
It's
not here.
he's not here actually. JK. We have Mantaj. It's Calvin. You've been exposed. And CJ on the bottom here. We know what CJ's doing. Mantaj is playing good old-fashioned burn. He's burning it up.
What's going on today? Is it Pioneer or?
It's Modern.
Oh, okay.
Modern RCQ.
Oh, is that today?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought. Oh.
Modern RCQ. It is in fact today.
Do you have to paint? I thought you did. Because you have them.
Ryan says he knows this landless laugh anywhere.
What landless laugh? I always have land. It's just never where I need it.
Oh, it's always just in your deck.
It's in the library, it's just not in the library.
Yeah.
I think we figured it out. I'm not allowed to shuffle.
Ah, if you shuffle, then it messes everything up.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because last time when I shuffled everything, I mulliganed twice. No, they got fed up and shuffled for me.
All right, Montage starting off with, I believe, Fetch Shock. No, Fetch for a Mountain. And was a Goblin Guide. And then hits in for 2. You know, classic burn opener. Good old Goblin Guide. Also, Goblin jokes are banned in chat. No Goblin jokes. CJ doing the old hopeless nightmare. Card remains sick as fuck. That top playmat is pretty fantastic, huh? Montage has good playmat choice. A little,
Are you giving an extra points?
little Totoro. Oh yeah, definitely. He gets a free win with a with a Ghibli playmat.
Okay, that's fair.
So Montage discards, loses 2 life, comes with the Goblin Guide. Flips over 3 mana Davriel. Seems good. Seems very good, actually.
In sense of the fact, I should have to win.
And then suspends a Riftbolt. So looks like he might have... Yeah, he also Lava Spiked CJ, so... CJ gonna make the Goblin go to Jesus. Just gonna make him sack right away. Riftbolt comes out suspend and blasts it in the face for 3.
Yeah, he sounds me a lot.
I found it really interesting how a lot of burn players have started playing Rolling Vortex main, not even in the sideboard, and that really shows the prevalence of free spells in Modern. That burns when you just play a 2-mana ping you for 1 every upkeep, but also if you cast a free spell, 5 damage. CJ, cast the Davio that we saw off the top of the deck from the Goblin Guide earlier.
500 points.
4 copies of Vortex. That's kind of nutty. You know, and I mean, like, if the game goes long, but that 1 damage does add up. You know, it adds a, like, persistent clock, which is nice. That, like, your opponent has to answer, or I mean, they will eventually die. Definitely making Montage discard a card. See, Daffodils are cool because it discards your opponent's cards and also damages them for not having enough cards in hand during their upkeep. So, you know, it allows these 8-rack decks to kind of become like 10 or 12 rack decks, depending on how many Daffodils you want to play. Oh my god. I'm feeling this card is like something shards, but Mantaj sacrifices a mountain to dome CJ for 4 damage. That's a lot of damage. Another Vortex. 2 damage every upkeep. 2. Down to 4. CJ's on the ropes here. He's got to get some life gains from somewhere. Because if CJ gets no life this turn and passes it back to Mantaj, then any amount of damage. Oh my god, CJ just slapping Streak of Ocean plus 2 racks. That's 3, 6, 9, 12. Does that win? I think Mantaj needs 4 damage in his upkeep. Whoa, CJ just exploding out of the gate with so much damage. So I believe 3 times 4 is 12 damage. 0. That's it, boys. Wow, CJ, what was that? Who's the burn deck now? Look at my bolts, huh? Look at my bolts. My bolts are artifacts.
I didn't know you were.
Wow. That was a pretty explosive go from CJ there. Holy moly. So Montage's burn plan is probably pretty straightforward. I'm not sure what he brings in against this. I know some, because we've seen white, right? Because we saw some dual lands in Montage deck. So seeing all that black, I think Montage is incentivized to play Sanctifier in back, which is a pretty popular burn sideboard card for all the red-black matchups. You know, it's just a guaranteed beer. It's hard to kill. Aside from that, I don't know if Lightning Helix is a popular sideboard card anymore. So is that a thing he could play? I mean, maybe. But in the meantime, I'm going to go get a drink and maybe a napkin. good news, everyone. I found both a napkin and a fork. So we're just doing great now.
He's using his fingers.
No! I do have a fork, I swear. I would never lie to chat. Right? Never lie to Twitch chat.
I thought that's the only people who lie.
I mean, you're not wrong. CJ is playing what I would call 8-rack. 8-raku. It is a deck that plays, well, I guess it's like more like maybe 10-rack. I don't know how many racks he's playing. He's playing the rack. The rack is a cool deck that aims to delete your opponent's hand with various discard spells, and then plays a card called the Rack, which is a 1-mana artifact. And I mean, the deck was pretty a couple duplicates of Rack type cards, which is why it's called 8-Rack. It plays 8 of them, but it plays a number of cards that more or less say if your opponent has 3 or less cards in hand, you deal damage to them. So you try to run your opponent out of resources, and then you deal damage based on their empty hand. It's a really cool deck. It hasn't really seen a lot of play in Modern for a while here, so I'm pretty excited to see it back. It's 8-Rack is a deck from like Modern's like earlier years. With so many card advantage spells, like I mean, we saw CJ on coverage earlier today, right? And like I mean, the Rack looks kind of silly against cards like the One Ring. Just draws you so many cards. But CJ's also playing a couple cards that attack opponent's lands, like Smallpox. So if you can keep your opponent off the One Ring, then maybe the Rack does something. You dig? Montage is starting out with a mountain. I believe neither player mulliganed. CJ certainly didn't. That's definitely 7 cards in his hand. With a Swift Spear, an old Pauper favorite. So depending on who you ask, this could be a Pauper game. You know, Mountain Swift Spear. I mean, I guess it was Fetchland Mountain Swift Spear, but you know. You can't have it all. CJ wishes to look at Montage's hand and take a card of his choice. I mean, not the most stacked hand, but definitely a good hand. Burrow's Charm does represent a lot of damage. Like, next turn, Montage can fetch for a white source, and then just play Burrow's Charm, and then deal 6 with the Swift Spear Prowess trigger, which is pretty good. You know, and then do it again next turn. But CJ sees that line. He's like, yeah, I think 4 damage is too much. I'm going to let you have a Lightning Bolt. Because also, the 8-Rack doesn't really play too many creatures. They play some Planeswalkers, which the Bolt can help deal with. But more often than not, Lightning Bolt isn't going to do a whole lot. You know, aside from represent 3 damage to CJ's Dome. Montage draws a Lava Spike, because that wasn't in his hand before, so he must have drawn it. Hits with Swift Spear, and then also Lightning Bolt. So yeah, Montage is just, you know, dumping his hand. Going for the kill, getting as many prowess triggers as he can get while the Swift Spear is still around. We're seeing the strength of Burn here, where on turn 2, CJ's at 10, right? Poked for 1 damage on turn 1 and then 9 damage on turn 2. Which is a little bit nutty, actually. But kind of shows how strong these prosecutors can be when, you know, the 1-2 isn't often a 1-2. Sometimes it's a 1-mana 3-4. But here comes Smallpox. CJ's like, you know what if we each just blew up some lands and some creatures and lost some life? So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because CJ does lose 1 life here. And, against the deck where half the spells deal 3 damage, being at 10 is much better than being at 9. So for everyone at home who may not have passed, maybe wasn't the strongest in math, dealing 9 damage in 3 damage increments, much easier than dealing 10 damage in 3 damage increments. It's almost like 3 lightning bolts deals 9 damage, and 3 lightning bolts does not deal 9 damage. Does not deal 10 damage. Mantaj does have his 3rd land, though, to recover from the Smallpox and just slam Sanctifier on play. Which, actually against CJ's deck specifically isn't usually the slam dunk that it is against, decks like Rakdos Scam. Or sorry, Rakdos Evoke, now. Because I think a lot of CJ's removal, or a good portion of CJ's removal is sacrifice-based. And Peck doesn't really do a whole lot against sacrifice-based removal,
I think if they could come back, I'm going to get it.
And there's the titular card, the Rack.
That's why
CJ chooses an opponent, and in their upkeep, they'll lose 3 minus the number, or 3 life minus the number of cards in their hand. So as long as Mantaj has 3 or more cards in his hand, the Rack doesn't do anything. But if he has 1 card in hand, like he does now, the Rack will deal 1 damage, or will deal 2 damage. And this Nightmare will get rid of his last card, making Mantaj take 3 damage in his upkeep. But Sanctifier still getting in, doing the thing. Putting CJ down to 5. And Necrogen Mists is going to make CJ discard a card in his upkeep. And what's interesting here is that because CJ controls both triggers, he can stack them in a way that before the Rack deals damage, Mantaj has to discard a card, thanks to Necrogen Mists. So that's a way to ensure that CJ gets max damage out of his Rack, the full 3. And that's game? I believe that's game. I believe.
Well, I haven't seen the Rack being used for a while.
The Rack is back.